according to psychological study, to types of natural mechanisms, can be replaced and have a direct impact on our consciousness. One character is a reconciler, while the other is a scathing critic. Conflicts between these two characteristics frequently occur in the unconscious. This means that it is impossible to pinpoint the exact timing and cause of such mental fights. It frequently takes us to two typical situations. The first is being honest with our feelings at the time, allowing them to manifest themselves spontaneously. The second option is to use more complex psychological tactics to mask that inherent state. But even if it's when we compel people to suffer the volleys of volcanoes bursting from our own fury, or turn hostility into friendship, whether it's a fact or a cover-up, if the problem endures for a long period, they can lead to serious and difficult to control battles. The book Chatter by psychologist Than Kross contains fascinating findings about the dark side of our thoughts. As he writes in his book, chatter consists of the cyclical negative thoughts and emotions that turn our singular capacity for introspection into a curse, rather than a blessing. It puts our performance, decision-making, relationships, happiness, and health in jeopardy. For a child who is learning and honing his or her communication skills, at that point, expressing the language outside with them will be difficult. Instead, kids will learn to converse with themselves. They use that capacity to figure out how to put together picture puzzles or model building activities. Perhaps the appeal of a specific object is always limited and ready to be replaced by something newer. They may discard them or destroy something that they previously treasured. Or when approaching a stove, the natural warning mechanism lets them grasp the danger and scream hot, hot. Language communication may be limited, but it should not prevent them from expressing themselves in front of potentially dangerous things. So, what is the structure of an adult's inner voice? The first thing we cannot deny is that it occurs more silently. However, measuring the intensity of internal ripples through exterior emotional or behavioral responses is challenging. We learn to control our emotions and learn from our mistakes. Future direction is achieved through simulation tables, analysis, and review of previous actual experiences. Despite this cognitive maturity and growth, many of us are aware that our inner voice may be both complex and harmful. We can go long distances to see azalea in full bloom, but it's difficult to resist disappointment when they don't bloom as well as they did in past years. Walking through the pretty azalea forest, but we are not as eager and enthusiastic as many of those around us. Looking at the flowers in the present makes us remember the visions of the past, filling our emotions with despair and boredom. When someone asks us about this event, it's difficult to put it into words. Instead, there were critical lines like, "very bad," not as good as last year. How would flowers feel if they had emotions? Although it will not be able to bloom as normal this year, but it still has to be exposed to the bone-chilling cold of winter weather to smell as fragrant as it does now. It did its best to accomplish its work, but it was difficult to change the environment that harmed it. Yet why do we expect azalea to reveal their beauty to our liking? And is anyone else feeling as down this year as I am while seeing the azalea? Wallowing in a circle of negativity, as Than Kross said before, will have a big impact on changes in consciousness and outer conduct. From comment to judgment is a very close distance. Although the comments are still dependent on our views and feelings, they are not of such a kind that they cannot be changed. Comments and judgments are both correct and incorrect. Every time we decide what is right or wrong, we frequently do it based on our personal preferences. But before we make those decisions, what happened within our heads to push us to make those decisions? The phrase "even if you are sure, please check again" is frequently used in drugstores in Western nations. A dose of error can have a serious influence on someone's physical health. Similarly, someone's mental health must be safeguarded in the manner described above. Some people's inner dialogue is innately more tolerant of themselves, while others tend to punish themselves. Instead of influencing others, we appeal to danger at ourselves. Self-criticism and self-judgment are both dangerous. But no matter where we begin, we can all learn to preserve our distance from our inner chat box. As Edward Norton Lone puts it in his butterfly effect, the flap of a butterfly's wings in Brazil can create a hurricane in Texas. The butterfly's flapping of its wings is very small, but it has a more significant chain effect on other kinetic energies, so it can create a bigger effect. Along with that principle, another flap of wings can extinguish it. So, instead of being passively steered by those perilous conditions, let us return to the original problem. We can begin by changing our inner voice to reflect the things we should say to ourselves or others. If we continue to feel that our communication is clumsy, we can practice quiet for a bit to think on ourselves. When we start speaking again, we need to keep a slow pace to clearly hear our meaning and attitude at that moment. Judgment, no matter how right, is a sword that destroys the relationship between us and those around us. So, if at all possible, let us cultivate the practice of awareness, seeing reality as it is, in order to let rid of those superfluous distinctions. So, whether you're being honest or hiding things, just remember to respect yourself and those around you. We will have the opportunity to establish a welcoming atmosphere for awakened souls.